Chapter 15, The Smarter Way to Build. In this chapter, we are bringing everything together because throughout this audiobook, we have talked about vision, feasibility, budgeting, scope, contractors, bids, contracts, communication, psychology, project management, and the overall structure required before construction begins. But underneath all of those conversations is a much bigger idea, a different way to approach construction altogether. What I call the smarter way to build. And honestly, this mindset shift changes how you approach construction because most owners enter construction reactively. They move from inspiration straight into execution, and then they spend the rest of the project trying to recover clarity while construction is already moving. But smarter building works differently. Smarter building creates structure first, then construction follows. Most people build backward. Many projects are approached backward. Owners start with excitement, then move immediately into pricing, then try to figure out planning while construction is already happening. But the problem is, construction moves too fast to build the strategy at the same time you are building the project. That creates instability. Smarter building starts earlier. It starts before the contractor, before the permit, before demolition, before emotional financial commitments are made, because the strongest projects are usually won during pre-construction, not after problems appear. Smarter building starts with clarity. The smarter way to build always starts with clarity, not urgency, not pressure, clarity. Clarity around why the project exists, what successful actually looks like, what the property supports, what the budget realistically supports, what risks exist, what priorities matter most, and what you are truly trying to accomplish long term. Because without clarity, projects drift emotionally very quickly. Many owners spend more time researching finishes than defining the actual purpose of the project. That creates unstable decision-making later. Strong projects start with strategic thinking first. Smarter building respects pre-construction. One of the biggest mindset shifts I hope you take away from this audiobook is this. Pre-construction is not wasted time. It is project protection. The planning phase is where problems are identified early, where budgets become grounded, the scope becomes clearer, expectations become aligned, risks become visible, and better decisions get made before pressure enters the project. Because once construction begins, fixing unclear decisions become far more expensive emotionally and financially. Smarter owners understand this. They slow down early so the project can move better later. Smarter building is about structure, not just style. A beautiful design alone does not create a successful project. A successful project also needs the budget structure, communication systems, documentation, decision-making processes, scope clarity, risk management, and strong project leadership. Because construction problems are rarely caused by aesthetics. They are usually caused by missing structure underneath the aesthetics. That is why some projects look beautiful online, but felt emotionally chaotic to live through. And honestly, owners deserve both, a strong result and a healthier experience getting there. Smarter building is not about cheapest. This is another important mindset shift. The smarter way to build is not simply chasing the cheapest number, because cheap decisions sometimes create expensive consequences later. Now, I'm not saying owners should overspend emotionally either. The goal is alignment, strategic investment, intentional decision-making, understanding where money creates value and where it simply creates emotional spending. Smart owners focus on long-term project health, not just short-term emotional relief. Smarter owners stay engaged. The healthiest projects usually involve engaged owners, not controlling owners, not absent owners, engaged owners. Owners who ask thoughtful questions, understand the process, review decisions carefully, stay connected to budget visibility, clarify expectations, and communicate consistently, because no one else has the same emotional and financial investment in the outcome than the owner does. And projects feel much healthier when owners lead intentionally instead of disappearing emotionally once construction begins. Smarter building reduces emotional chaos. This is one of the biggest benefits of strong project structure. The project feels calmer emotionally, not because problems never appear, but because the project is built on visibility instead of confusion. Owners understand the goals, the budget, the process, the expectations, the risk, the communication systems, and the decision-making structure. That visibility changes the emotional experience because uncertainty creates stress, but structure creates stability. The project should support your life. One thing I really want you to remember is this: the project exists to improve your life, not consume it completely. Too many owners normalize chaos during construction as if stress automatically equals progress. But strong planning can reduce enormous amounts of unnecessary pressure. The project should feel guided. It should feel intentional, organized, not emotionally chaotic from beginning to the end. And while construction naturally creates disruption sometimes, there is a huge difference between necessary complexity and preventable chaos. The smarter way to build reduces preventable chaos early. Strong projects are built twice. This is one of my favorite ways to think about construction. Strong projects are built twice. First, mentally and strategically, then physically. The first build happens during the planning, budgeting, feasibility, the scope definition, the communication systems, and expectation alignment. The second build happens during actual construction. But if the first build is weak, the physical build usually becomes unstable too. That's why planning is so dire, because construction exposes the quality of the preparation underneath it. You do not need to know everything. I want to say this clearly because many owners feel intimidated by construction. You do not need to know everything. You do not need to become an architect or a contractor or an engineer. But you do need enough understanding to lead your project intentionally, enough understanding to ask good questions, enough understanding to slow down before major decisions, enough understanding to recognize risk, enough understanding to create clarity before commitment. That alone changes projects dramatically. What smarter building feels like. The smarter way to build feels calmer, more organized, more intentional. The owner understands the direction of the project. The budget feels grounded. Communication feels structured. Expectations feel visible. Problems are addressed directly and quickly. Decisions feel strategic instead of reactive. And even when challenges appear, the project still feels manageable because the foundation underneath it is stronger. That is what strong project leadership creates. This is really about leadership. At the end of the day, smarter building is really about leadership, owner leadership, not through fear, not through micromanagement, but through clarity, preparation, communication, intentional decision-making, and creating structure before pressure arrives, because projects naturally move toward either organization or chaos. And the earlier structure gets built into the process, the healthier the project usually becomes. Final thought. The one thing to remember about this chapter is the smartest way to build is not rushing into construction. It is creating clarity before commitment, because the quality of the project experience is usually determined long before construction begins. Strong planning creates stronger projects. Strong communication creates healthier relationships. Strong structure creates calmer construction, and intentional leadership creates better outcomes. Before you build the project, build the foundation underneath the project first. That is the smarter way to build. Thank you for listening to Before You Build It. If you want additional project planning tools, resources, or guidance for your own construction project, visit goeasyproject.com/beforeyoubuildit. And if you are preparing an ADU, remodel, addition, rebuild, or major construction project, you can also schedule a complimentary project strategy session.